we quickly move on to the next paper. What about the other interpersonal aspects of meditation in Vedic traditions? The paper is being presented by Dr. Jyotsna Agrawal. Dr. Jyotsna ji, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chairman and Dr. Nagaraj and the Indica team. So meditation, we have already had a lot of discussions. Today, the interpersonal aspect is basically related to the relationships, and some practices in the tradition attend to actual or imagined presence of other people, as well as attitudes and behaviors, which has actually been less studied or less research interest has been and like a lot more has been. Most meditative in a subjective network of significant people, and there are a lot of associated joys, challenges, etc. And another reason for focusing on this area is also because empathy and intimacy are so core to the mental health, and difficulties in these areas are related to personality disorders. And meditation seems to be helpful in many of these challenges. Given my area is clinical psychology, therefore I would be focusing a little more on this. So in the last decade, research on metta and karuna, loving kindness, compassion has indicated that there is improvement in positive emotions, undoing of negative emotions and its effects, as well as brain area related to empathy and emotional processing has shown influence with these meditations. And in clinical group, it has been helpful in anxiety and depression, although the studies were quite small. One of the important things in the modern psychology has been that these studies have been done from a Buddhist perspective. However, in the Buddhist text, Digha Nikaya, there is mentioned that these are actually older practices. These are pre-Buddhist practices, and there is an example of an ancient king, Govinda. And these practices actually got assimilated later in the Buddhism. So I went into a little bit of exploration and went from Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, Yoga Vasishtha to Rig Veda. In my understanding, Rig Vedic god Mitra seems to be the oldest description of this tradition. As Sri Aurobindo says in The Secret of Veda, the Mitra, a power like Varuna of light and truth, especially represents love, joy, and harmony, the foundations of the Mayas, the Vedic beatitude. The root of the term Mitra means to embrace, to contain and hold, and linking together the part or materials of a whole. Sri Aurobindo says that Mitra is considered to be the Lord of love, a divine friend, a kindly helper, the most beloved of the gods, as he brings in our reach the divine enjoyment and perfect happiness. He also says that Mitra creates in us a happy rightness of mind and feeling, sumati, a state of grace, an unhurt abiding place within, free from all undelightfulness. I'll come back to this later again, related to some of our clinical experiences. So Maitri as a practice, subsequently in Chandogya Upanishad, it mentions that how Ahimsa and Maitri leads to Brahmaloka, and this seems to be the root of the term Brahmavihara for these practices in Buddhism. On the other hand, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the practice has been described as bhavana, to be cultivated, and it's like now 1.33, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, bhavana. So attitude or mindset to be cultivated by the practitioners. An expansion of friendship is to be done for everyone towards those who are happy, compassion. Based on this Maitri, the compassion is developed for those who are in distress, joy for the virtuous, and the equanimity for the non-virtuous. And it is mentioned that decreases tamas and rajas along with increasing sattva. Again, Patanjali mentions that performing samyama on friendliness comes the strength of the quality. So samyama is the combination of these three meditative processes of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So this practice can also include aspiration. So as you might have come across this chant, famous chant of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. So if you see, in fact, each of these lines actually relate to one of these qualities. So Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina is like Maitri, may all be happy. Sarve Santu Niramaya is may all be free from infirmities related to Karuna. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, may all see good, is related to appreciative joy or mudita, and Ma Kashit Ma Punyat again is related to Karuna, may none have mystery of any sort, and Om Shanti Shanti, Om, which relates to the Upeksha. or equanimity, often translated as both equanimity, equal-mindedness, as well as indifference. So Vajrasena Samhita, the other way is also can relate to visualization as given in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, like Sutra, like it describes that one can meditate on the joy we experience in the presence of, have this meditation and they find it difficult to imagine that goodwill and joy and love. So one can imagine a person who is important and a loved one, a bandhu, and meeting them, how we feel happy, and then like go from there. Some of the supportive practices are, for example, PRATIPKSHA BHAVANA, which has been disturbed by improper thoughts, constant pondering over the opposite is the remedy. Because many times it's hard for give good wishes to people with whom we are having difficulty. So here the idea is that negative thoughts about others, for example, anger is replaced by its opposite of the goodwill. Another supportive practice is related to the interconnection. As Sri Aurobindo has again said that Mitra is often invoked in the company of Varuna, since Mitra cannot fulfill his harmony except in the wideness and the purity of Varuna. So the contemplation of the oneness, the interconnection, the largeness, expansiveness is very important, which is also given in the inherent oneness in the tradition. For example, Tattvamasi. I'm quoting from the Ishopanishad, where it is translated as like he who sees all beings in his own self and sees his own self in all beings, he does not hate anyone thereafter. So one can start with wherever they are, like, and dharna on the idea. Sri Aurobindo has acknowledged this difficulty and said that although in the initial stages one needs to understand and sympathize with others, widens one's love, compassion or fellow feeling for others and work for others, as one experiences self-realization, they directly perceive essential oneness in multiple forms of the universe. Again, the other supportive practice, 130 to 31, and then later again. So 5 other directed practices are the first steps of Ashtanga Yoga, which focuses on harmonizing outer aspects of our nature or Bahiranga. These are yogic ethics considered to be basic universal rules of Dharma and are Mahavrata and have precedence over all other vratas. And it is similar to the Vedic idea that God Mitra dislikes violence, and in Chandogya Upanishad, how Maitri is associated closely with the Ahimsa. So perfection of these yamas can lead to siddhi. So these are the 5 ones. Ahimsa, I am not going a lot into details. So ahimsa is like not wishing harm to any creatures in thought, words, deeds. And it is considered to be the foundation of all other yamas. Satya is related to doing what we say and saying what we do, pleasant, beneficial, kind truth. Astya is non-stealing or not taking what rightfully belongs to others. Brahmacharya is not, apart from continence, leads to seeking at fulfillment and at sensual level, therefore avoiding that or going beyond that. And aparigraha, or like non-covetousness or non-possessiveness. So we had done some basic research, like because we could not find much work in this area. So there was one mixed method system, and we did one interesting work where we asked people to tell about their classmates who seems to be wise to them. And then we looked into weightage of the scores and then went back to those people who were predominantly nominated as wise by their classmates. And we found that actually the Brahma Vihara or these 4 bhavanas were common in their interviews, like feeling happy in other people's success or caring for others' growth or helping those who are not doing very well or accepting others. And then coming to a little bit of clinical work, especially personality disorder, where there's a pattern of hostility, antagonism, etc. And psychotherapy practice is considered to be difficult with such clients. And although mindfulness-based dialectic behavior therapy is one of the common methods, but sometimes even that doesn't work, or it leads to some improvement and then it leads to a plateau. In such cases, we have introduced Maitri or metta meditation, and has led to decrease in many of these difficulties. And one of the reasons we felt why it would help, and like my work seemed to be, because as Shavanda has said, that leads to an unhurt abiding clinical setting, come with a deep sense of hurt, and which attachment is common in many of our clients. And based on this idea, to clinical research, one was with caregivers of patients diagnosed with mental illness, and another was with patient diagnosed with depression. And in both cases, the results were very encouraging in improving well-being and especially decreasing the distress and depression. And now we have expanded it further into sattva enhancement therapy and doing in the process of like a larger study. Thank you. I think I've been within the time. So take-home message is like, this has potential for both promoting mental health, building treatment-oriented.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Jyotsna ji. There was a bit of difficulty in hearing. There was a signal problem. Are you yet concluding the last slide?
Oh. Yes.
Yeah, please go on. Please go on. Yeah.
This is the last slide.
Yeah, please.
So I am just ending with this idea that it's helpful for like as a practitioner as well as a researcher or as a clinician. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jyotsna ji.
I'll stop
it was a very interesting attempt to trace these yogic practices to the Vedic lore based on Sri Aurobindo's interpretation, and also looking into the clinical insights in that regard. Thank you very much.